an absolutely scathing review of Sirius Black. Hey, brother! Okay, buckle up, people. Today, we get a little spicy. Sirius Black, you've heard of him no doubt, famous Gryffindor, Marauder, Animagus, #1 most wanted escapee of Azkaban prison, and one of my all-time favorite characters in one of my all-time favorite series of all time. I can't stress it enough. For years, if you asked me which Marauder I most identify with, it was most likely Sirius. Well, Jay has always been more of a Lupin man, if I do say so myself.
I say so too.
See? Sirius has always had what I perceive to be a kind of cool swagger about him, known for his amazing gifts and words of wisdom and guidance. And a part of me is always enamored with his innate goodness, blended with his, as Dumbledore would say, certain disregard for the rules. Now I'm just starting to sound like I kind of have like a crush on the guy. But beyond that, Sirius has one key trait that really allows him to rise to the top. He is, again, as Dumbledore might say,
a fierce friend.
Obviously, Dumbledore's talking about Cedric there, but it's one of my favorite movie lines not in the book, so any excuse, you know? Plus, it totally applies. And as long as we're basking in the glory of lines from the movies that aren't wholly in the book, how about this one from Sirius?
Nice one, James!
And I mean, I know there's the slight issue that Harry's just, you know, a wee lad, and Sirius is treating him more like a best friend here than a godson, but I mean, come on, what high praise for Harry in that moment, am I right? This guy is just so cool. And of course, basically the worst. Hey, brother! Someone definitely clicked on this video looking for a roast of Sirius Black and is like, what the heck is this guy just like gushing over him for?
Once again, you put your keen and penetrating mind to the task and as usual come to the wrong conclusion.
And that's true, but no more, because the fact is Sirius makes so many mistakes and is rarely helpful. Let's start from the very beginning, or at least when Harry first encounters him right after leaving the Dursley, when he pops out of the hedges in the dead of night, like a super scary dog.
It's among the darkest omens in our world. It's an omen of death.
As ever, Bam, thank you for hitting the intensity exactly as I needed it. But he's not wrong. At all, Sirius. Like, how long does it take you to transform back into a human? Like 3, maybe 5 seconds? Maximum? Here's a pro tip for you in this moment. Do that. Now. Except, you know what? Even if he had, can we just even trust for 1 second it would have gone well? Because even eventually, Sirius reveals himself to Harry and company, and it takes the better part of 3 chapters to barely seem innocent. So imagine, for 1 second, that Sirius pops out of those bushes as a big scary dog and then transform into a potentially clothed escaped inmate. Harry'd be all like, whoa, you went from a huge scary dog into a potentially scary man. What is your order of business, kind sir? And then Sirius would be all like, he's at Hogwarts. Sorry, sometimes say that in my sleep. Hi, Harry, it's me, your godfather. I basically killed your parents. I handed them to Voldemort. And Harry would be all like, oh, dearest me. Okay, to be fair, Harry might not say that. But he also might. But Sirius is so gosh darn lacking in context for nearly everything he says or does or gifts he gives, like he is like one of the worst communicators in the entire story. Whew, running out of breath. Okay, so we already talked about his poor first impression, but he doesn't stop there either, because bear in mind, his goals when breaking out of prison are to kill Peter and then tell Harry the truth and maybe take in some Quidditch, but more on that later. But on Quidditch, let's talk about the gift he sent to Harry, the Firebolt. Amazing gift? Yes. Very genius, I'll give him that. And yet it reveals such a glaring hole in any of his logic. Because are you telling me that he was able to successfully tell a cat, aka Crookshanks, how to order the most expensive broomstick in the world and send it to the most protected student at Hogwarts?
Gringotts, the Wizard Bank. Take no safer place, not one, except perhaps Hogwarts.
Hagrid, where do you get off, man? There is nothing safe about Hogwarts. But y'all, we need to take a brief pause right there so that I could change into this amazing aquarium shirt and tell you about today's sponsor, Shopify. Shopify is a big one for my household. Between our merch store here at SuperCarlinBrothers and my wife and I's other venture, Nude, hardly a day goes by when either me or Alice don't share some statistic or detail from the data center. But it wasn't always like that. For years, I think we both watched as online businesses were able to grow and flourish, and it always seemed like we were too far behind for not specializing in web design somewhere earlier in life. But that's the thing about Shopify though, like those skills are brilliant to have, but absolutely not necessary to thrive using their platform. It's so user-friendly, so getting started is a breeze, and it's built to grow right alongside you as your business does. And that's what I've loved the most. In the earliest days, we had our coffee beans and maybe a couple of t-shirts for sale, but nowadays we have a massive selection of products, which Shopify is also great for keeping excellent data on, so you can see what products stand out and which ones don't. Upgrade your business and get the very same checkout that we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/SCB. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/SCB to upgrade your selling today. One last time, shopify.com/SCB. Back to you, Sirius. Like, you never thought to just send Harry a letter explaining everything? Of course, let's be real, I can just imagine how that letter would go.
Dear Harry, I as good as killed your parents. Let's start there. I know this isn't the easiest thing to hear, but it's the truth. And if that makes you angry, I don't blame you. You know, it's impossible to talk about those days without mentioning Peter Pettigrew. Peter was, well, he was one of us. Loyal, kind, and always ready with a joke to lighten the mood. And his animagus form, my word. Harry, he could turn into a rat. Can you imagine? A rat! He was brilliant! Sure, not the most glamorous choice, but it was clever. I always thought James's stag was a bit much. It was like he wanted to shout, "Look at me, I'm majestic and heroic." I suppose I should address that incident on Magnolia Crescent. I realize now that appearing as a massive black dog might not have been the best way to introduce myself. I'd heard so much about how brave you were, Harry. I admit, I was a bit disappointed when you fell over in fright. Not that it's your fault, it's a natural reaction. But James would never have done that. He'd have probably tried to wrestle me or make some clever remark, but you're your own person and there's no shame in that. Still, maybe next time less falling? Signed, your godfather and definitely non-violent person, Sirius. P.S. Just double-checking. Based on everything above, it is obvious that Peter betrayed your parents and I'm an innocent man who wrongly spent 12 years in Azkaban, right? P.P.S. Who am I kidding? Stagform Patronus was so cool.
Classic Sirius, am I right? Like, when he talks, he's very misleading, but then also so often, he just doesn't provide any information at all. I mean, the Firebolt, for example, we've kind of already covered, but he is able to send a note with Crookshanks to the place to order the broomstick, which is a great gift, except because there was no note explaining at all, everyone thinks it's from Sirius Black, which it is. Actually, I'm not even sure if that point lands, because even if it was signed from who it was exactly who everybody was afraid it was from, so. But then there's the two-way mirror he gives to Harry in Order of the Phoenix, something if you've only watched the movies, you may have no clue about because it just shows up in Deathly Hallows when Harry ultimately uses it to miraculously summon Dobby to help them in the basement of Malfoy Manor.
Are you saying you can operate in and out of this room? Could you take us with you?
Of course, I'm an elf.
Well, so for context, Sirius gives him that mirror, which like, hey, totally saved their lives that time, right? What a great gift again! Actually, it's an even better gift if you've subscribed to Wordplay, because it is a mirror that can be communicated through from Sirius Black, making it a black mirror, which is a slang term for a phone. Well, mine has a picture of my daughter on it, but you know, you get it. Black mirror. That's so fun. But yeah, you might be like, okay, Ben, it saves Harry, Ron, Hermione, Luna, Dean, Griphook, and Ollivander. Like, solid gift. And I would say yes, except the whole reason that Harry ends up going to the Ministry and the Hall of Prophecies is because he believes that Sirius is there and needs to save him. But because Harry doesn't know what the mirror does, he goes through this very elaborate plan to use Umbridge's fireplace to double check that Sirius is in fact missing from number 12 Grimwall Place. It's the Potter boy's head in the fire, Creature informed the empty kitchen, stealing furtive, oddly triumphant glances at Harry. What has he come for, Creature wonders. Where's Sirius, Creature? Harry demanded. The house elf gave a wheezy chuckle. Master has gone out, Harry Potter. Okay, so not super helpful because Creature is lying at this moment, but he's only lying because Sirius is super freaking mean to him. Like, duh! Is this not the most ridiculous series of events unfolding? Right? Just me? No? What? Yeah? All of this to say, though, that Harry does eventually learn that he basically has a phone that communicates with one person, and it's Sirius, who, to be fair, did leave a note.
This is a two-way mirror. I've got the other. If you need to speak to me, just say my name into it. You'll appear in my mirror, and I'll be able to talk in yours. James and I used to use them when we were in separate detentions.
Do you see the problem here? Like, Sirius understands and even appreciates the functionality of good communication and even provided a good way to communicate, but broke down in the communication on how to communicate. It's amazing I have any hair left from pulling it out of my head. So, okay, maybe that one is just like equally also on Harry though, which maybe is just a problem of its own. Like Harry and Sirius maybe just don't make a great team, because then if we zoom back to the opening scenes of Goblet of Fire, we have Harry awaken from the dream of Voldemort, explaining his plan to a Wormtail and witnesses the murder of Frank Bryce. He wakes up in a cold sweat. Harry kneaded his forehead with his knuckles. What he really wanted, and it felt almost shameful to admit it to himself, was someone like a parent. An adult wizard whose advice he could ask without feeling stupid. Someone who cared about him, who had experience with dark magic. Ah yes, if only there was an adult wizard who had experience with dark magic, who you've had deep and meaningful discussions with, who's been able to train you in the fight against darkness, who was best friends with James, and who you've known for more than 1 hour. Poor Remus, constantly being overlooked, but absolutely would have been a very worthy option. Instead, let's try and find Sirius, whose location is unknown because he's on the run and who has to be discreet just in case someone intercepts the letter because he's a wanted criminal. That's easier. It's okay though, because later in the story they solve this by using the fireplace in the Gryffindor common room to play him for the first task and how to get past the dragons, and good news, it's totally foolproof. Right, these dragons, said Sirius, speaking very quickly now. There's a way, Harry. Don't be tempted to try a stunning spell. Dragons are too strong and too powerfully magical to be knocked out by a single stunner. You'll need about a half dozen wizards at a time to overcome a dragon. Yeah, I know, I just saw, said Harry. But you can do it alone, said Sirius. There's a way, and a simple spell's all you need. Just pickles. But you know what? Harry probably wouldn't have done it as cool as James would have anyway, so. Best he just make his own plan, which, hey, still got to use the firebolt. Sirius got him. Which, like, okay, hey, let's talk about the firebolt again, because it's not the only broomstick that Harry has ever been gifted by Sirius. Dear Padfoot, thank you for Harry's birthday present. It was his favorite by far. 1-year-old and already zooming along on a toy broomstick. He looked so pleased with himself. The man has a move, but dare I say, might not have the moves. At least not in the air. What I mean by this is, I'm not sure that Sirius has a firm grasp on Quidditch, or as he calls it, the Quidditch. I swam as a dog to the mainland. I journeyed north and slipped into the Hogwarts grounds as a dog. I've been living in the forest ever since, except when I came to watch the Quidditch, of course. Is it just me, or is this like saying like, y'all watching the sports this weekend, or who's winning the football? And I only bring it up because, well, there's a lot of evidence, to be honest. For one, James and Sirius in their day seemed to be the best at everything they did and totally inseparable. But for some reason, despite all of James's success on the Quidditch pitch, no one ever seems to mention Sirius being involved. And not that you need to do the same activities as your friends or anything, but at bare minimum, even his younger brother Regulus seemed to find some success on the pitch. Harry, meanwhile, had noticed another photograph. A Hogwarts Quidditch team was smiling and waving out of the frame. He moved closer and saw the snakes emblazoned on their chest. Slytherins. Regulus was instantly recognizable as the boy sitting in the middle of the front row. And who knows, maybe just because he wasn't on the team didn't mean he wasn't a good flyer or anything, except he does have his own rather different method of getting around. Hagrid, said Dumbledore, sounding relieved. At last! Where did you get that motorcycle? Borrowed it, Professor Dumbledore, sir, said the giant, climbing carefully off the motorcycle as he spoke. Young Sirius Black lent it to me. I'm telling you guys, Sirius may like the Quidditch, but I'm not sure he knows his way around a broomstick. Which also, no one says he has to be good at this. Maybe it's not like wholly fair to critique somebody for not, being into sports. But not for nothing, I'm pretty sure Snape can fly. At least a little bit. At least well enough to shoot off George's ear. From afar. But let's just go ahead and round off that line about the Quidditch from Sirius.
Except when it came to watch the Quidditch, of course. You fly as well as your father did, Harry.
Obviously, he's paying Harry a huge compliment here, as James was quite the flyer. However, this comparison game to James never quite seems to stop.
Nice one, James!
Until it does. Abruptly. I'm speaking, of course, when Sirius suggests he bust out the old dog form to meet up with Harry at Hogsmeade, to which Harry is all like, oh, heck no! There was a pause in which Sirius looked out of the fire at Harry, a crease between his sunken eyes. You're less like your father than I thought, he said finally, a definite coolness in his voice. The risk is what would have made it fun for James. Ah, yes. Let's have the 15-year-old be the mature one here. Padfoot. Makes me halfway surprised that the night bus scene doesn't go down more like this. What you fell over for? Then Sirius like undog forms and runs up next to Stan and is all like, seriously, Harry, James would have never. Have I somehow failed to mention the fact that he would have died before giving up his friend? Something I do believe is true. Basically, an invincible defense against Voldemort, and then for some reason decided to switch Secret Keepers to Peter? As a diversion? Anyway, guys, as per always, let me know if there are any other details that I missed in the towel section down below, or if there are any other characters that you want a scathing review of. But otherwise, guys, until next time, bye!